So I'm Erica Shoemaker. It is a pleasure to see so many familiar faces. I am the Associate Program Director at the University of Southern California for Child Psych, and I'm also the head of the CAP caucus for AdPERT. And so a lot of my role in this is actually about publicity, frankly. I'm going to introduce some of our presenters. So Sean Sidhu is the Program Director at UC San Diego and also on the Program Committee for AACAP. Sancy Jacobson is the Program Director at Pitt and the Head of Training and Ed for AACAP. Jill Brafford, on my upper left of my screen, is the Director of Meetings and CME. She's a staffer with AACAP. And then for a while, Elizabeth Hughes was on screen. She is, there she is. You moved around. Sorry, I got a little disoriented. She's the Deputy Director of Education and also a staffer for AACAP. So they will be keeping everything running smoothly, I am sure. So this is really about, I think, for all of us, leveraging kind of the loss of an in-person meeting to have it be our gain for bringing amazing AACAP content to more and more of our trainees. And I personally am hoping that maybe this goes well enough that maybe it can be repeated in subsequent years, even if we are no longer in the midst of a pandemic. But I'm hoping it'll allow us to bring AACAP to more people. I myself basically have time blocked out on my didactic schedule for fellows to watch AACAP, and that is as far as I've gotten. So I'm hoping that by the end of this hour, I will have something to fill in those boxes, a better idea of what sort of logins I need, how many people can watch at a given time, what's interactive, what's limited in size, what's open to everybody. And maybe some ideas about the stuff that is most pertinent to people at the learning level of fellows. So with that said, I am going to pass this on to Sean. Take it away, Sean.
Hi, Edwin's doing a little dance. That's kind of cool. This is fun. This is getting me excited for the meeting to see all of you, and I don't know, yeah, it feels like it's actually happening, whereas it's sort of been this distant like thing in the cloud for a while. But yeah, you know, we're here to answer some questions if we have them, and Jill is here to help us if we don't have the answers to the questions. But I mean, ultimately, the meetings committee, the meetings staff was really tasked with the huge challenge of how do you take this gigantic meeting that happens, you know, with about 4,000 child psychiatrists typically attending, and make it virtual with different time zones. And so the goal was really to have the same quality of content. But the nice piece is you get to consume some of that content on your own time, whereas at the annual meeting, you'd have to be, you know, in that specific room. And then you also get to save some money on travel and hotel. So there are some positives as well. And I think what's really neat about this group is all of you are supporting trainees, no matter where you are, whether you're east, west, middle of the country. And so there are just so many opportunities to involve trainees at the annual meeting this year. And I think we should just probably say right up front that trainees can attend the meeting for free. And so where there usually would be a registration cost, there's no registration cost for trainees this year. And so, I mean, they really, I'm going to explain a little bit about the different types of content that we have and what's available. But for a free meeting, you'd think that they'd be able to find something that would be enjoyable for them to watch, where they could learn. So some of the programs like institutes and things of that nature, workshops still do have a ticket for trainees, but they're at reduced cost. And so if a trainee has to pay $40 for an entire week of something, you know, it may be worthwhile to them to do so, but that's up to them. And so the way that it's kind of broken down is we have a 2-week kind of span from October 12th through October 24th. And the first week of the meeting is all pre-recorded content. So there's nothing live, it's not streaming. And so starting up October 12th, AACAP is just going to release 300 hours of this pre-recorded content. And it's in specific areas or for specific types of programs. And so the first is symposia, and these are the data heavy sorts of things that you would attend. So imagine in your mind a talk on, the latest research involving genomics in autism or something like that. It's a very kind of specific topic, actual data being presented. Those symposia will be the first week, as will be the institutes, which are those day-long sort of 8-hour psychopharm institutes, very popular. People have attended that in the past. So a number of institutes will be released, and you can consume all 8 hours basically at your own sort of leisurely pace on demand. And the last topic is clinical perspectives, which is really a broad range of topics that that are maybe not as quote unquote data driven as symposia. An example of a clinical perspective might be, something on systemic racism, or a topic on immigrant or refugee mental health, or some sort of a media topic where you might not have this specific data. So that's what's happening the first week without any live events, but you have a ton of content that you can go through. And then starting the second week, which is October 19th, that's when you start with the live streaming content. And again, it's going to be an additional, hundreds of hours. So with the second week, you'll have, in addition to the first week, research posters, networking, a virtual exhibit hall, plenary sessions, and in which COVID and systemic racism will be discussed. Discussion sessions. So this part is important. If you watch an institute the first week and you're like, man, I wish I could have asked that speaker a question, you'll actually have a chance the second week to be able to have a discussion with the presenters from the first week. I hope that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. I have a lot of beeping in the background. I apologize for it. Okay, and then other things the second week would be kind of smaller study group type things. So special interest groups, workshops, extended workshops, clinical consultation breakfasts. And most of the live, to try to kind of straddle two time zones, most of the live events are going to be between, if you're Eastern time, 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., or if you're Pacific, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. So that's just a quick overview of how the weeks are split up. Easy way to remember is first week pre-recorded and second week live. I think that's about it for this section. I'll hand things over to Jill and then hop back on after.
Great, thanks, Sean. Again, for those of you who joined late, I'm Jill Bradford, the Director of Meetings and CME for AACAP. Thanks so much for being here. We hope that this will be helpful not only for your own use of the annual meeting, but so that you can be more familiar with it and can also share this information with your trainees and think about how you best, how they can best use the annual meeting. One thing I want to underscore first with what Sean said is week one is the pre-recorded, week two has live. But that week one pre-recorded content is available over the whole time, the whole 2 weeks. And so it doesn't mean it's only available in week one. We're just giving you an extra week to listen to it, knowing that 1 week wasn't enough to see all of this content because you're not away from your homes in the same way that you would be if you traveled. And then the other thing I'll say, which I know will come up, is all of this content will be available with a login for a month after the meeting. And so until November 24th. So if there's, what will happen to everybody is that they'll have these high hopes of everything they want to see, and inevitably something will come up and you miss it. And so you'll have an extra month after the meeting to see it. The CME accreditation is for the 2 weeks, but you will have that extra month to go view the content. So I'm going to share my screen and demo for you the annual meeting website and different features. And I just put in the chat box the link to the website. So this is our main homepage, and a few things I just want to point out here. Of course, the registration page. If you are not registered, please register. Registration is not closing, so you can register even once the meeting starts. But obviously, I suggest you register before October 12th to get the most out of it. As Sean highlighted, members who are residents are free, as well as medical students. What is not here yet, but that will be here, is an attendee toolkit that will help attendees make sure that Zoom is downloaded and just get, some Zoom etiquette type things, all kinds of little videos, tutorials showing people how to log in, showing people how to connect. So that's all coming next week and will be under that attendee tab. Then you have the programming information, which I'll get to. For those of you who are speakers, which I know a lot of you are, I hope that you have been to our speaker virtual meeting resources page. There is a great toolkit that walks you through everything. There are a bunch of videos here in our video vault that are really helpful in thinking about presenting in a virtual way. We have a lot of exhibitors confirmed already, so we will still be having our virtual exhibit hall similar to what you would have at a live meeting. And then FAQs and CME kind of things over here in the general section. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to sign into the website, which is now available. We made it live last week. You should have gotten an email about this if you were registered, because signing in will let you do a lot more to prepare for the meeting. So you need to sign in with the same login that you would use to sign into the AACAP website. And then when you sign in, you'll get to this page that explains our attendee portal, which is what we're calling this, and how you can set up your schedule. And so what we're suggesting you do, let me get rid of this, is think about the annual meeting schedule in two different ways. And what we're calling it is a watch list and then my schedule. And so the idea of the watch list is just like they have on Disney Plus or Netflix, where you can tag programs that you want to watch that are available on demand, that don't have a particular time and place, that at some point over the 2 weeks of the meeting you want to watch. And then the My Schedule is for the parts of the meeting that are live at a particular date and time that you want to put on your calendar, just like you would organize an Outlook calendar. So for the things on the watch list, the easiest way to view that is to go to the link over here for on-demand content. So this is all of the content that Sean just explained. Clinical perspectives, the symposia, the institutes, and actually honors presentations are in this chunk of programming too. So you can see as I'm scrolling, it is a whole lot of content. And any of these things, all you do is hit the plus sign and it will get added to your watch list. And so in this case, for a symposium clinical perspectives, they're all about 2 hours of pre-recorded content. So by putting it on the watch list, you're putting it on your list to watch at any time on demand. If you wanted to attend that live session, that live Q&A that Sean mentioned, you would also then click that calendar button and it will go on your schedule. So that is the pre-recorded content. Then for everything that's happening on week 2 for the live sessions, my opinion is the easiest way to navigate that is the schedule by day. You can also look at it by type of program. I should have brought this up here. Under the program, you have the types of programs here, which then explains all the different types of programs, which ones are ticketed, which ones are not, which ones are small group, which ones are open to everyone. So you have all those resources. There's a lot of different types of programs. So in the schedule by day, this highlights for you the live things that are happening at a particular date and time. So you'll see that clinical perspectives and symposia are only 30 minutes because there's already that 2 hours of on-demand content that's there. And so your live session would just be that 30 minutes. But then you see other things like a member services forum that's an hour and a half, or a clinical case conference that's two hours. And those are all live streamed programs. Our workshops are generally, this is an extra long one, but generally 3 hours. Here's our training and education summit that's 2 hours. So all of those things that are a longer chunk of time are live streamed, meant to be interactive kind of content. I mean, we've been very clear with our speakers that you can't give 2 hours of live lectures with no interaction virtually. It's just not going to work. So those are the ones that will have breakout groups or polling or other ways to interact with the audience in those types of sessions. So, you can think about how you consume the annual meeting content in a lot of different ways. Some people might not want any interaction. They just want to get the presentations and listen to the on-demand content. And so they can do that for the whole 2 weeks. There's 300 hours of content and they can do that. Other people might only want to do the week 2 kind of things. Some people might want to hear what the live Q&A discussion is for clinical perspectives before they decide to listen to the 2 hours of content, or they might decide, oh, I don't necessarily want the whole 2 hours, I might just want that one talk. And then they're going to have the flexibility to do that as well. Of course, I expect most people are going to do a combination, some on demand and some live, but you have a whole lot of flexibility in the way that you view it. A few other things that I want to mention of what's to come. You won't see it on the website yet, but you will starting on the 12th in some cases, or the 19th in some cases. So, talking about interaction, the best way to interact is to participate in the live sessions. We're going to really encourage everybody to turn cameras on, set things aside. This is your way to interact with the field. So that's number one, encouraging people to attend the live sessions. Number 2 is that for every single session, so let me get into a clinical perspectives. Again, you don't see this yet, but as you go through for a clinical perspectives, you're going to see the video of the talks, and then you're going to see a message board for every session, every poster, everything will have a message board. And so when you're listening to this content, you can in real time type your questions out to the presenters, and they will get an email message saying so-and-so ask this question on the website, and they will post it back to the message board. So it'll be hopefully a really dynamic way of adding to the content. You can view other people's questions and what the response was from the presenters. And then for these sessions, like a clinical perspectives that have the live Q&A, the presenters can use that message board content to inform what they want to talk about in the Q&A. We are having a treasure hunt. And so this is going to be a bit of a competitive thing that, if you listen to 3 on-demand sessions, you get 200 points. If you attend our networking session, you get 200 points. If you go to the exhibit hall, you get so many points. And there's, probably 15 or 20 different things that we're having to encourage people to engage with the meeting and really participate. So I will highlight that. That little friendly competition is never bad. And then there will be an attendee list that will be here on the left-hand navigation that once someone logs in, their name will go on the attendee list. You can go into your edit profile and upload a picture. You can also note your pronouns, and those things will show up on the attendee list, and then there will be a way to send a message to that person and connect with them just over email. But so, there's a way you might have, interacted with somebody on a Zoom and you just got their name. And so then you can connect with them and have, share their email address and that kind of thing. Any questions on those kinds of things? Let's see. Okay, Sean, I'm going to pass it over to you to talk a little bit more about some of the programming specific to residents.
Yes, and will the amazing MSR events guide be, how will folks be able to find that?
I can actually upload it to the chat here.
Oh, look at that.
I think.
Okay, can everyone see the page? I'm seeing one nod. Okay. Can you read it clearly, or do you guys need me to zoom in?
Can you zoom in?
Okay. See if I can go closer. Okay, so starting out on Monday, October 19th, you have, which as a reminder, this is now the second week going forward. You have, actually, the chair of this is with us, I think, Edwin Williamson, if he's still here. He was here a minute ago.
And yep, I'm here, and the participant Sean Sadhu is here.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting, but it'll be a lot of fun. Is screen time good for children's mental health? And we'll have a debate about that. And then, that evening there's virtual fun for residents and ECPs. Tuesday, October 20th, we started a new program this year, although the first iteration was last year, where we have trainees present cases really quickly. So they have 10 minutes, they talk about a brief case, and then we have an expert panel. We'll have some psychotherapists, some psychopharmacologists who will kind of talk about the case. And if we have time, the audience will also talk. Because they're so fast, there's not that much time for audience participation, but we got a good number of questions in last time. And there's a part 1 and a part 2. So by doing this, we were able to have about 12 total trainees will be presenting between the 2 sessions. So it's an interesting way to hear about a lot of neat cases, and it goes pretty quickly. Then they'll be meeting with the Life Fellows from 1:30 to 3. And from 3 to 4:30, the Power of Vulnerability. I think Stancy was involved in this. I could be wrong, though. Maybe I could be wrong. But sort of a wellness type of self-compassion talk. Advocacy boot camp. And then that evening, Tuesday evening, we have the Medical Student Networking Hour. Then on Wednesday, the 21st, there is Sharing International Opportunities in the morning and a Medical Student Resident Meet and Greet in the middle of the day. And again, don't worry about the times as much because these things are going to be adjusted based on your time zone on the website. And so just make sure your time zone is entered correctly and it'll automatically adjust for your time. And then we have an exciting sort of thinking about your career in child and adolescent psychiatry session. At 11 in the morning on Thursday, depending on your time zone. Life After Training for triple boarders. Mentorship program has been hugely successful over the last several years. So usually it's a gigantic, room in the hotel where hundreds of people will pile in and a bunch of mentors and a bunch of mentees. It's really good for your trainees to come to. And so I don't see why it wouldn't be the same virtually. And then we have some receptions. Then Friday kicks off taking a sexual history, which is difficult for all child psychiatrists and certainly something trainees would want to know about. Resident as Teacher, which has been, a very popular program for years and years. Roundtable discussion on pandemics. And then the second rapid fire case presentations, the second mentorship program. And then lastly, we have a Youth at the Border event on Saturday morning. Now, I wanted to share one other program with you and mention a second. The one to mention, and Sansi can talk more about this, is that there is an OLLI interest group meeting on the Sunday. Now I'm forgetting where I wrote this.
The 18th.
6 to 8 Eastern, right? And it was the Sandwich Sunday, which would be the 18th?
Correct.
Okay. So that's one to keep an eye out for. And then let me see if I can pull up this really cool summit that Sansi and the rest of the training and education folks put together. And you all can also, Sansi could probably talk to this better than I could. But here it is just for your viewing. So it says the Training and Education Summit is open to CAP program directors, medical student clerkship directors, and any other faculty who are passionate about education. Attendees learn about important updates and innovations in CAP training for medical students, fellows in the community. So really nice opportunity to learn from one another and network. I think that's pretty much what I have for this section, but happy to switch over to, was it Jill or Sansi next?
Let me answer a few questions in the chat. So a few of you are asking about posters. And so let me just quickly share my screen and go to our poster section real quick. So what will happen with the posters is you'll see they're not in sessions in the same way they would normally be, but they're just broken out by category. And now you are able to see the abstracts for all of them if you wanted to start to scroll through and learn. But then what will be here starting the week of the 19th is a poster viewer, basically, where you'll be able to scroll through and easily see the content of the actual posters. And then with each of the posters, there is a message board where you can ask questions. We're not having live interactions with the poster presenters, but we are hoping that those message boards will be active in order to provide the same feedback that you would get in a live way. Let me see if there was one more question. Well, I'm trying to figure out how to post that PDF that Sean shared, and I'm having trouble with Zoom, but I have the attendee list for this, and so we can send out an email after the fact to everybody so you have that PDF.
Jill, I can send that out on the listserv as well.
Oh, perfect. Thank you so much. All right, so Sancy, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So I'm going to repeat some content, but I'm going to try to keep it succinct and useful for you because I know everyone is trying to decrease their screen fatigue. So in order to organize myself, I've created the top 10 ways that you can help your trainees with AACAP this year. You ready, guys? Thank you, Sean. I haven't started yet, so you're applauding in advance. Here we go. Drum roll, please. You did it really well in the AACAP. This is a different top 10 than what you'll see in the AACAP video that's online. Number 1, it's free. Free for members, trainee members. And think about this, medical students, residents, and fellows who are members of AACAP can attend for free. Medical students might not be aware of this, and so it would be really meaningful for you to reach out, if you're a training director, to reach out also to your friends over in the School of Medicine to reinforce that medical students have this really unique opportunity to join this year. All right, next, number 2, plan. So we know that the best type of parenting is a parent who is structured and caring. We need to put on our structured program director hats and help our trainees learn how to use these weeks usefully. All right, so all that you learned today, you need to meet with your trainees in advance, orient them to the website, help them learn how they can network, especially those seniors who maybe are looking for job opportunities outside of your geography. You can help them set up sessions where you could network with them. Help them seek sources and sessions that are meaningful for them. You can give them the MSR flyer that you're getting today. But really you want to make sure that the time off they use is meaningful and they can utilize the toolkits and everything that you've learned about today. All right, number 3. Here's, I'm out of order. You ready? We've made it easier. Cancel didactics. As a program director, you don't have to teach this week, right? So model, good training director presence. Go to events, make sure your trainees know you're going to events, tweet about it, post on it, use social media, give your residents kudos when they do the same, and make sure that you're substituting what you usually would be teaching with AACAP content for these weeks because it's there. All right, number 4, I think. Divide and conquer. So we know that utilizing screens actively and interactively combats screen fatigue, right? So you want your trainees to go to the workshops and interact in the small groups. Another way to decrease the amount of just passive learning is to assign your residents to different sessions, and then they know that they have to come back and teach their peers throughout the rest of the academic year. So they're more engaged and they're thinking with their teacher hat on, not just their learner hat on, and that will keep them a little bit more accountable and maybe a little more excited and present in the sessions that they are at. All right, number whatever we're on, 5, have fun. All right, so how can we have fun? It's really, really important that we continue to sustain the sense of community and connectedness that we have with this amazing AACAP community. For some of these trainees, it's going to be their first year coming to a conference, and we don't want them to just sit there staring at PowerPoint presentations. And so AACAP has done an amazing job of helping us educators know how to be interactive and engaging in our talks, but there are other ways to make it fun. So a couple of ways that have been shared with us. There are actually fun activities from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every evening, I believe, that AACAP is putting on. You personally can make it fun locally. So at my program, our chief residents did something during the lockdown of COVID-19 where they had a Corona Olympics. Well, what about doing a similar where you break up your trainees into 2 or 3 or 4 different groups, and they compete for the number of minutes that they attend AACAP events. You could even have them download the free MyFitness app and have an indoor sport of watching AACAP, all right? So make it fun, maybe eke into their competitive nature, or utilize the built-in competition that AACAP has done for us, which is great. Another way to create a sense of community, watch parties. So I went to our chairman and I said, hey, what about the auditorium? Can we utilize that for distanced, masked events, watch parties for the residents and the faculty members to come and throughout the week, as often as we can have the auditorium, watch together. And so my chief residents are putting together a curriculum of what will be watched in the auditorium, and we'll have snacks and lunches and what have you to entice people to come and take a break and physically be together. Now, not everyone has the ability to do that in their institution. And so then, the other way that you can watch together is to learn from the millennials who are doing their Netflix watching parties and watch virtually together. So watch parties can be in person, safely distanced, masked, or they can be virtual if you don't have that ability to do so. All right, now with my wellness hat on, mindful time off. How many of you guys have actually decided to take time off during AACAP when you're not presenting to just enjoy some of the content of AACAP week? All right, Catherine, good. Raise of hands. We need to be doing this for ourselves to model our well-being, okay? That we are not just trying to squeeze in an entire week worth of conference and an entire week of our clinical and administrative duties. All right, and so we also need to encourage our residents to do the same. They need to take time off mindfully, and perhaps you can figure out how to provide coverage throughout the week with a smaller crew. But this is really an opportunity for most of your trainees to attend at least part of the week. And that's something I think we should all try to do as training directors. All right, do I have anything else? Targeted kudos. So, if you have a trainee or a young faculty member or even more senior faculty member, have your residents go to their poster, go to their talk, show their faces, let them know that their community supports them, and make sure you can use the AACAP website really well by searching to find people who are in your city, in your institution, in your program, and make sure that you show up, because that's how we're going to create a sense of connectedness. And then lastly, network. Our trainees are not very good at this on their own. And once again, going back to the other point, we need to help them in advance so that they can utilize this new virtual reality with the networking events that are built in. And you can find a ton of networking events for medical students and residents right here. A shameless plug. Please do consider coming to the Training and Education Committee Summit. It's the replacement for our lunch, but what Lee and I really love about it as co-chairs is that you all can come this year. You don't have to pay for the lunch. You don't have to be 100% club to be able to eat for free. We really want to have as many program directors as possible in that meeting. I'm planning to share with you guys one of our projects from the past year. It's called the Well Toolkit. For those of you who came into this Zoom call today, I'll put the link for the Well Toolkit into the chat. But it's a way for training directors to meet the ACGME requirements on physician wellness, created with content that's created by physicians for physicians. It's evidence-based. It has 6 different chapters on fatigue, burnout, depression, substance use, risk for violence, and risk for suicide. And it really has some wonderful content about encouraging physicians to seek help for themselves when they're struggling. So if that sounds interesting to you, it's free, and the Training and Education Committee put a ton of energy into this. We have 80 experts from around the nation, physicians who helped us create this content. I hope you check it out. I'm going to put that in the chat now. And without further ado, I think we're going to spend the rest of the time dreaming aloud. So you've heard some ideas that came from us. Anyone in the room have some ideas as to how you might try to create a sense of excitement, connectedness, and community for your trainees. And I can't see the chat, but I'm going to pull it up in case there's something in there. Jill, will you mind reading the chat? Someone decides they would prefer to type as opposed to chat.
Sure thing. And I will just add, Sancy, I loved the top 10 list. And one thing that ties in very nicely that I just want to point out is our wellness programs that are a formal part of the program. And so every day we're going to have a new meditation and yoga video that we're saying are at a particular point in time, but they're going to be on demand, that you can watch them at any time, and they're created just for AACAP. They're not generic. They're meant for physicians. And then some other really creative, laughter, improv, core class, calligraphy. Some of these are going to happen live, a sing-along. So we've really tried to integrate those kinds of things into the program as well.
Sansi, just one thing, awesome. I love that. I got a lot of inspiration from it. One thing our chief fellow came up with is to kind of think about the 2 weeks differently for during our didactic time. First week being because you can access anything that's there to all do it together. So everyone's doing the same thing during that time. For the second week, because they're live things, everyone goes out to kind of do their thing. And then we haven't totally figured it out, but then to have like an AACAP recap, we wanted to have a happy hour. We've done in the past, a little bit trickier with COVID, but to think about what kind of social thing can we have after to kind of bring that back to share what everyone's did. So thinking about the 2 weeks separately, that's kind of one thing our fellows have come up with.
Wonderful. Yes. And I'm glad you mentioned that socialization throughout the week, finding ways to have small pods to possibly get together with an outdoor after party, that kind of thing, a way to connect and enjoy each other's company. This takes some planning, but we can do this.
And someone put in the chat the idea of comparing schedules with the trainees and their own schedule so that you can really coordinate. I love that idea, Sancy, of, people from the same university cheering each other on. I think that's great.
Yeah, we're actually even going to spend an entire hour of our usually scheduled afternoon lecture to really help the fellows understand how we're utilizing the week, help them utilize the websites, and let them know what content we're planning to broadcast, but also what else they could access, and help them with that, a little hand holding in a really positive way. Well, I really appreciate the opportunity to chat with you all. As you come up with more ideas, I'm wondering, Erica, would the AdPert child listserv be a good place to share some of these? And perhaps we can put together a list of content that is coming up in the chat and what we've shared amongst our group, and see what else program directors come up, a little competition amongst ourselves over the next couple of weeks.
Erica, you're muted.
I would keep it on the CAP program directors listserv. Otherwise, we will get complaints from the AdPert general membership, just so you know. But amongst our cool kid CAP program director selves, for sure, I think sharing ideas is a great strategy. And I also I almost hope that it continues after the meeting, because I think we can use our experience this year as a experiment and rough draft to figure out what could work in future years. And that would allow us, I think, also to speak coherently to AACAP about what would be helpful for us continuing to provide some content over video, even though we all hope to go back to a face-to-face annual meeting soon.
One other pitch for you guys, it was mentioned earlier, but I believe it won't be in the program, so I really want to specifically say it to you. Ollie is really intended for students, trainees, and early career psychiatrists who are interested in becoming leaders within education and training. And so if you have trainees who, are your chief resident of education or really love to teach, or they're going to stay in academics, please encourage them to attend the Sunday evening on the 18th from 6 to 8 p.m., that OLLI meeting. And if you're interested in it, you can put your name in the chat here, or you can get in touch with Annika Archer or anyone over at AACAP, and they'll get you the information for your trainees, or even for yourself if you want to join that meeting. We'll be doing some of the Pechakuchas again this year, both at the Training and Ed Summit and at the OLLI meeting. And so you'll see some innovative ways to engage audiences via screens that perhaps you haven't seen before.
I was just going to make a comment. I thank you for all the information. I like the idea of pre-planning. I think pre-planning is what's going to work the best, and walking them through it. And I hadn't thought about devoting time to do that, so I definitely will do that. One thing that I might do in addition, because as you guys were presenting, I was like searching through the program and seeing like which of our faculty members are presenting. But in addition to encouraging our trainees to go to that, I think I may actually ask many of those faculty members to choose 2 or 3 sessions that they also would recommend, because they would have ideas of who else is an expert in their field. We have Nira Ghaziuddin, who's presenting a couple sessions on catatonia, but who does she want to listen to? And that may be a clue to other fellows who are interested in that same topic of who they shouldn't miss, because the program is so huge, right? So how do you decide? So that may be a way to do that.
I love that. That's great. So maybe even reaching out to your faculty and say, hey, reach out to your mentees and let them know where you think they really should be present that week. And then they can targetedly ask for that time off if they haven't already. That's a great idea, Sarah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I might actually compile a list is what I'm thinking, with all the facts in one place.
Yeah. Say more.
Yeah, just, because we have all these different faculty with different kinds of expertise, but if they go through and say like, each person says these are the 5 sessions I'm not going to miss, then I can compile it all in one place.
Fabulous.
Even if it's not a particular mentee, there may be another person who's interested in what that person may want to attend. So that may be a way to generate like a curated list out of the huge list.
Great way to use your community. That's awesome. Thank you for thinking of that.
Great. Well, I just want to thank you again from AACAP for participating, for registering for the meeting, for doing all this pre-work with your residents to get them excited. Of course, again, if you're not registered, please register so that you can get that logged in access. You can start to create your schedule and plan ahead for the meeting. And then lastly, of course, we are here. And so if you have questions about registration, you can contact registrar@acap.org. If you have questions about the meeting in general or any of the programming, you can contact meetings@acap.org. And you'll start to see, if you need technical support, there'll be yet another place that you can go for specific technical support. But hopefully you'll see from what I demoed today, the way that we logged in is the way you will log into the meeting. There's nothing more to it. And so hopefully it'll be a pretty intuitive way to navigate the content. Any last words from Dr. Schumacher or Dr. Jacobson?
Just seeing you people makes me excited about AACAP coming up. So thank you so much for attending, and spread the word. I think we're going to share this video so others who missed it can watch it. So thanks for joining and making this interactive and fun.
Yeah. Thanks everyone. Have a great afternoon.